Now, Ryan Garcia versus Conor Benn should be easy to make, but it is not. The problem is not money, it's personal. Dana White and Oscar de la Hoya have history. Now, Netflix wants leverage, not drama. So, can two powerful enemies work together, or will promoter egos destroy a massive fight? So, there has been some interesting dialogue from Eddie Hearn with regards to Ryan Garcia and the Conor Benn situation. So, let's explore this conversation and bring some perspective and understanding. So, apparently, there is a Benn Ryan Garcia contractual mess. So let me explain. So Garcia has, I believe, some exclusivity to the Zone and to Golden Boy. So for a Netflix fight, they need cooperation between Dana White and De La Hoya because they would be co-promoting. And the problem here, according to Eddie Hearn, is that this will not happen cleanly. And this creates an interesting narrative because it creates, I guess, a question of whether a promoter's ego can kill a fight that the fans want to see. Now, for those that don't know, De La Hoya was a great champion. He was a great former champion with some great wins. And now he is a promoter. And Dana White is a legendary UFC promoter. And historically, these two promoters, these two powerhouses in their own right, have had documented issues. I guess the question is whether enemies, because I believe that they are genuine enemies, can work together. Can enemies work together if the price is right? The issue, ironically here, is personal, not economic. Can they resolve their problems? Can their beef, I would think that their beef would be part of the marketing machine behind the fight, because Netflix is not interested in the personal issues between Dana White and De La Hoya, but they are interested in the financial and the cultural leverage of Conor Benn versus Ryan Garcia. So this is an unusual situation. And then we get to the actual fighters. So that's like the politics, the capitalist element. But when we get to the fighters, Eddie Hearn has an interesting take on Conor Benn, and clearly there may be some hostility there. He thinks that Conor Benn looked weak and non-punching against Prograis, which was his last fight. And he feels that he will get hurt by Garcia's power at welterweight. There's a few things to unpack there. Looking weak and non-punching, these are two different things. I would disagree that he looked weak. I think Conor Benn, one of his strengths is that he is physically strong. However, he didn't seem to have that same power that he's carried before. And Prograis allegedly had a poor camp. I believe he may have had an injury. So he looked weak. But even though he looked physically weak, and let's acknowledge that Prograis has pedigree, he was able to survive to the final bell, which definitely questions Conor Benn's power. Will Conor Benn be able to handle Ryan Garcia's power? That is a question. And then we have the purpose question. What is Conor Benn fighting for? Is he fighting for the legacy? Is he fighting for the money? Or is he fighting for both? When someone is purely just fighting for the money, that's perhaps when things can go wrong. There are, of course, some positive things about Conor Benn. Like I said, he looks physically strong. He has developed his head movement and he's improved his boxing IQ. But there are some negatives. The question is whether does he have world-class power, or does he just punch hard at perhaps the British and Commonwealth level? And does he have the experience to deal with someone like Garcia? And if we take the harsh stance, and this is not necessarily the stance that I take, but some people might state that the marketing is better than the talent. When we look at the stylistic element of the fight, can Conor Benn take away Garcia's left hook? Because if Conor Benn has a chance of winning this fight, he needs to neutralise that deadly weapon, just like Rolly did. And like I said, is Prograis being, I think he was injured, but he was weaker because he did retire after the fight and he did make some concessions after the fight. Is him surviving the whole fight, is that a red flag with regards to Conor Benn's competency at the elite level? So I think some of Eddie Hearn's observations, and I've mixed some of his observations with my observations, but I think some of Eddie Hearn's observations are valid. He obviously has insider knowledge, both on the infrastructure of boxing, on the infrastructure of making the fight, and on the actual potential and talent of Conor Benn, because he worked with him from an intimate perspective. However, the big question is, can we get these two in the ring? Because let's face it, they both are boxers that have tremendous amount of virality. But even though they are both viral as personalities in the boxing universe, will it be a good fight? Garcia, on one hand, has looked incredible in his latest fight, but then he looked terrible, I believe, in the fight before that, the fight against Rolly. So the question becomes, when we look at it from a Garcia perspective, can he adapt if things don't go his way? If you start to neutralize the left hook, can he make adaptations to throw and land the left hook? And has Ryan Garcia rediscovered his form, or did he beat a weak champion? I don't like to use that language of a weak champion. Maybe we should say, did he beat a weaker champion? Because all champions, you could argue, are strong by definition. But here's a few questions. Does the promotional beef between the promoters, does it beat good economics in the sense that this is a fight that can make a tremendous amount of money? In capitalism, if the money makes sense, the fight makes sense, right? And promoters of all people should understand that. But perhaps in a different society, or in a moral society, perhaps all money is not good money. Think of this. Ryan Garcia versus Conor Benn is not being blocked by a lack of interest. It is being trapped between business, ego, and uncertainty. Now, the money is there and the virality is obvious, but Dana White and Oscar De La Hoya may value control more than cooperation. Then there is the fight itself. Can Benn handle Garcia's left hook at 147? Can Garcia stay composed if plan A fails? These are the questions. So the biggest obstacle may not be the promotional politics alone. It may be whether both sides believe the financial reward is worth the sporting and reputational risk. So that's the end of the video. Now I'm trying to build a digital boxing community, and that means I'm interested in your thoughts, I'm interested in your perspectives, and I'm interested in your observations. Now, if you want to support the channel, press like, hype, and subscribe. And if you want to watch more content like this, then simply click here or click here. As always, thanks for your time. It is much appreciated.